Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps this channel. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really unusual based on the sources you sent over articles, historical bits, all pointing to this one case. We're diving deep into the story of the Greenbrier Ghost.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. It really walks that line, doesn't it, between, documented history and something else. Your sources do a great job painting the picture of West Virginia, end of the 19th century, 1897, and the events leading up to a trial that was, well, unprecedented.
Absolutely. So our mission today, unpack these sources, find the core story, highlight those surprising facts, and try to figure out how something that's seemingly unbelievable actually influenced a court of law. Ready to get into it.
Let's do it. Okay, so setting the scene is key here. Your sources really emphasize late 1800s West Virginia. Think rugged, isolated, Appalachian country. Communities were tight-knit, but also, pretty separate from the outside world. And this story unfolds in a little place called Meadow Bluff.
Right, and into this scene, we get our key players. First, Zona Heaster Shue. The sources describe her as young, lively, quick to laugh. You get a real sense of her spirit. Then there's her husband, Erasmus Shue, but everyone called him Trout. He was a blacksmith, newish to town, and the materials suggest right off the bat there was, something a bit off about him, maybe intense, controlling.
Definitely something unsettling mentioned. Their marriage was fast. Very fast. And Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, she had misgivings from the start, according to the accounts. It's also noted that Zona seemed to pull away from her mother after she married Trout.
That distance becomes important, doesn't it?
It really does. It sort of sets the stage for what happens next.
Which brings us to January 23rd, 1897. A young neighbor boy, maybe running an errand for Trout. He goes to the house.
Yeah, Trout apparently said Zona needed something or wasn't well. And what the boy found, it was awful. He finds Zona's body. The sources say she was at the foot of the stairs, lying still, arms crossed on her chest, eyes wide open. And her mouth was twisted, strangely, and her neck tilted at this really unnatural angle.
Oh, wow. The poor kid. He ran for help, obviously.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Terrified. Dr. George W. Knapp, the local doctor, he gets there. But this is where things get really strange, according to the sources. Trout's already there. He's described as making a big show of grief, wailing, but he physically stops Dr. Knapp from doing a thorough exam. He's cradling Zona's head, won't let Knapp near it, insists she just had a sudden fit or something.
A fit? That sounds convenient.
Yeah.
And preventing the doctor from examining her? Huge red flag.
A massive one.
Right.
And Dr. Knapp, maybe because of Trout's behavior, or maybe it was just difficult, he initially writes down the cause of death as everlasting faint, which is incredibly vague. Almost meaningless, really.
Everlasting faint.
Yeah. Then, even weirder, the next day it's amended to childbirth. But your sources are absolutely clear there was zero evidence of pregnancy, no baby, no signs, nothing. It was completely baseless.
Okay, so a rushed, blocked examination, a vague cause of death changed to something totally unfounded. It just screams cover-up, doesn't it?
It certainly points that way. And the weirdness continues right into the funeral. Zona's dressed quickly for burial in a high-neck burgundy gown.
And this is where the scarf comes in, right? The detail that bothered Mary Jane.
Exactly. Trout absolutely insisted that Zona be buried wearing this pale silk scarf tied tightly around her neck. It had red flowers on it. He claimed it was her favorite, but Mary Jane, her own mother, according to the sources, she'd never seen Zona wear it, ever.
That's specific and telling.
And then at the viewing, Trout is described as just hovering over the coffin. Very possessive. He physically kept people, especially Mary Jane, from getting too close, particularly near her head and neck. The account suggests his grief felt, well, performative, like he was putting on a show.
So Mary Jane is seeing all this. The scarf, Trout guarding the neck. The sources say she wasn't crying like others. She was just watching intently. And that's when she felt it, right? That cold certainty.
Yeah. The sources describe it vividly, not just sadness, but this deep, bone-chilling conviction that something was terribly wrong. Something wicked had happened.
So what happens then? She suspects foul play, but has no proof, just this gut feeling and Trout's weird behavior.
Well, the weeks after the funeral were rough for Mary Jane. The sources describe her withdrawing, grieving, but also constantly replaying everything. The distance from Zona, the quick marriage, the funeral, the scarf. It all haunted her.
And she started praying.
Desperately. The sources record this plea, something like, God, if there's any justice, let her come to me. Let Zona speak.
Wow. And then,
according to Mary Jane's later testimony, Zona did come. Not just once. 4 nights in a row. And the sources are specific about how Mary Jane described it. Not like a misty ghost, but a full apparition, glowing slightly, wearing her burial clothes. And she wasn't moaning or floating. She spoke, clearly.
Chilling. What did she say? What were the first words?
The sources quote Mary Jane directly here. The first word was mama, followed immediately by, he killed me, mama.
Oh my God. Imagine hearing that from what you believe is your daughter's spirit.
Absolutely devastating. And then the ghost allegedly gave details, horrific details. How Trout flew into a rage because supper wasn't ready, his constant anger, how he grabbed her, violently twisted her neck so hard she heard the bone snap, died instantly. Mary Jane even claimed the ghost showed her the broken neck, said she could almost feel it herself.
And the cover-up, did the ghost explain that too?
Yes, according to Mary Jane. The ghost revealed how Trout arranged the body at the stairs, how he crossed her arms just so, propped her head up, and crucially, tied that scarf tightly specifically to hide the broken neck, the marks. The sources emphasized the precision of these details, revealed night after night.
And Mary Jane believed this completely.
Utterly. The sources describe her certainty as this raw Appalachian certainty. She didn't waver. She just stated it as fact, as Zona had told her.
So armed with this spectral testimony, what does she do?
She goes straight to the county prosecutor, John Alfred Preston, as soon as the visitation stopped, apparently.
Preston must have thought she was, well, crazy, or just overcome with grief.
Initially, yes. Your sources say he was deeply skeptical. I mean, who wouldn't be? A ghost story is evidence for murder. But something about Mary Jane unnerved him. Her calmness, the sheer specificity of the details she provided. She didn't seem hysterical or delusional. She seemed certain, so it prompted him to at least look into Trout Shue's background.
And he found things, didn't he? Trout wasn't exactly squeaky clean.
Not at all. Preston discovered Trout had been married before. 3 times, in fact. One wife died mysteriously. Another divorced him, citing extreme cruelty. And he'd even done jail time for horse theft. Now, this wasn't proof he killed Zona, obviously. But as the sources point out, it painted a very disturbing pattern. That history, plus Trout's behavior at the funeral, plus the highly questionable cause of death. Preston felt he had enough grounds to take a very drastic step.
Which was the exhumation?
It's exactly. A very bold move for 1897. Exhumations were deeply taboo.
So how did he justify it legally? He couldn't exactly tell a judge a ghost told him to do it.
No, he couldn't. The legal argument, according to the sources, hinged on the faulty death certificate. Because Trout had interfered with the initial examination and the cause of death was changed without basis, Preston argued that Zona's death was never properly certified. Therefore, a formal autopsy was required.
Clever. So the exhumation went ahead.
It did, on a cold, gray morning in March. The sources mentioned Mary Jane was there, watching. You can only imagine what that was like for her.
And the autopsy itself?
It was done by 3 doctors in a nearby schoolhouse. They were meticulous, according to the accounts. And the key moment came when they removed that silk scarf.
Did they find what Mary Jane claimed?
They found exactly what she claimed. The sources are clear. Visible bruises on the neck, a crushed windpipe, fractured cartilage. And the critical finding. The first and second cervical vertebrae, C1 and C2, were broken, dislocated. It was absolute confirmation of manual strangulation. One doctor is quoted as saying something like, "This was no accident. This girl was murdered."
Wow. Just wow. The broken neck, hidden by the scarf, exactly as the ghost allegedly described. That precision is just staggering.
It really is. The sources even mentioned the mood in that schoolhouse changing. These were experienced doctors, likely seen a lot. But this discovery, lining up so perfectly with the mother's seemingly impossible story, it reportedly unnerved everyone.
A sense of Zona's presence, some accounts suggested.
So with that forensic evidence, the cause of death is officially changed.
Changed to murder by strangulation. And Trout Shue was arrested. The sources note he maintained this strange, unsettling calm throughout the whole process.
Which leads us to the trial. This must have been huge news. Oh, absolutely. A massive sensation. Held in Lewisburg that June. Your sources talk about crowds, reporters flocking in, headlines like, "Murder from Beyond." It captured the public imagination.
Trout gets a lawyer, William Rucker. What was his strategy? He's got hard science against his client now.
A really tough spot for Rucker. He had the autopsy, Trout's shady past. His main angle, the sources suggest, was to attack the ghost story. Try to paint Mary Jane as unreliable, grief-stricken, maybe even delusional. If he could discredit her entirely, maybe he could cast doubt on how the investigation even started.
And the prosecutor, Preston, how did he approach it? Did he lead with the ghost?
No, Preston was smarter than that. He built his case on the solid ground first. The autopsy results. The timeline inconsistencies in Trout's story, Trout's suspicious actions. He called neighbors, the undertaker, even Dr. Knapp, who had to testify about Trout interfering with the examination. He laid the factual foundation.
And then Mary Jane takes the stand. Must have been electric in that courtroom.
You can picture it. The sources describe her as composed, straight spine, steady voice, calm but absolutely firm.
And she tells the story, the whole story.
She does. She recounts exactly what she claims Zona's ghost told her. The argument, the murder, the broken neck, the scarf, the staging of the body. And the sources emphasize how she told it, plainly, without hysterics, like she was simply stating facts. That raw Appalachian certainty again.
Okay, so Rucker cross-examines her, tries to break her down, make her seem crazy.
Exactly. He pushed her hard, asked if she believed in dreams, if you saw things often, tried to imply she was superstitious or mentally unstable due to grief. He brought up the Bible, trying to corner her.
How did she respond?
Brilliantly, according to the accounts. When asked about dreams or visions, she apparently said something like, "I believe the Lord can send truth however he chooses." And when Rucker basically asked if she was mad, she replied firmly, "I'm not mad, sir. I am a mother, and my daughter was murdered." It backfired on Rucker. Instead of looking unstable, she came across as steadfast, courageous, a grieving mother demanding justice.
And the ghost testimony itself, how did that legally stay in the record?
This is the really interesting legal quirk highlighted in your sources. Preston, the prosecutor, didn't ask Mary Jane about the ghost during his direct questioning. It was Rucker, the defense attorney, who brought it up during cross-examination, trying to discredit her. Because the defense introduced the topic, they couldn't then object when Mary Jane answered his questions about it. The judge allowed it, instructing the jury they could basically consider it however they wanted, weigh the supernatural elements as they see fit. So it wasn't setting a precedent that ghosts can testify, but it was a loophole that allowed her full story, ghost and all, into the official trial record.
Fascinating. So the jury hears the forensic evidence, here's Trout's history, here's Mary Jane's unwavering testimony, including the ghost story.
Right. Closing arguments happen. Preston hammers the physical evidence, arguing the ghost story was the catalyst that led them to the truth. Rucker pleads for reason over superstition.
And the verdicts.
It came back fast. Just over an hour of deliberation, the sources say. Guilty, first-degree murder.
Trout's reaction, still calm.
Still weirdly calm, reportedly. He was sentenced to life in prison.
And they got him out of town quickly. You mentioned a lynch mob risk.
Yeah, feelings were running high. The sources mentioned a mob started forming, so they transferred him quickly to the state penitentiary at Moundsville.
Did he ever confess or say anything more?
Not that the sources indicate. He died in prison just 3 years later, 1900. Cause of death listed as some illness, but it wasn't specific. Locally, though, the whispers persisted. Zona got him.
And the legacy, what remains today?
Mary Jane stuck to her story until she died. Zona's grave is still there at Soul Chapel Cemetery. And maybe most significantly, that historical marker erected in 1991. It explicitly mentions the ghost testimony being key to the conviction. It calls it the only known case of its kind.
So how is this case viewed now by historians, legal scholars?
It's still studied, yeah. In law schools, it's an oddity discussed regarding rules of evidence, hearsay, judicial discretion, how unusual circumstances can play out. Folklore studies look at it as this amazing intersection of Appalachian folk belief, the idea of the restless or wronged dead returning, meeting the formal legal system. And for paranormal researchers, well, it's often seen as maybe the strongest case, legally speaking, for a ghost impacting a real-world outcome.
Your sources offer different takes on what actually happened with Mary Jane, right?
They do. You've got the skeptical view.
Yeah.
Maybe Mary Jane subconsciously put clues together. Trout's behavior, the scarf and her grief manifested this story, or perhaps she cleverly used a story she knew would resonate in her community to force the authorities to act when they might not have otherwise. Then there's the believer's perspective. Zona's spirit literally came back for justice. And there's a sort of middle ground, too. People who maybe don't believe in ghosts per se, but absolutely believe Mary Jane believed it, and that her profound conviction, whatever its source, was the driving force.
But at the end of the day, belief aside, her actions led to the proof.
That's the bottom line in all the sources. Whether you think it was a ghost, intuition, cleverness, or profound grief, Mary Jane Heaster's insistence, fueled by something extraordinary she experienced, directly caused the exhumation. And the exhumation uncovered the physical, factual evidence that convicted Trout Shue. The ghost might have lit the match, but the forensic science provided the fire.
So it's not just a spooky story, it's this unique collision point, the unseen or the deeply felt pushing its way into the very structured world of law and evidence. Maybe that's why it endures. It lives right on that edge of faith and fact.
Exactly. And it leaves you with that thought-provoking question from the material. What if the dead can speak? Or maybe the question is, are we ever really listening? It suggests that sometimes the truth, like Zona's story, finds a way out. It doesn't always stay buried.
Wow. Well, thank you for bringing this incredible set of sources to us. This has been a truly fascinating deep dive.
It's definitely one for the books. The blend of hard science and something else, leading to justice. It's pretty remarkable.
Makes you think, doesn't it? About truth, justice, and maybe the lines between worlds aren't quite as solid as we think. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps this channel.